What's up, guys? This is Wes with Sincity Tactical, and thank you for joining the Sincity Tactical Show. Across the bottom, you see there sincitytacticalnv.com or sincitytacticalmn.xyz. Check that out. We appreciate you guys hopping on. We got a couple of big news items that I want to talk about today, but let's go ahead and bring Griff in, and as far as I know, we will have Jax a little bit later.
Hey, Wes, glad to be back.
Absolutely. Thank you for hopping on. So we got some big news today. Was scrolling through the Facebook, happened to see that BH Best Arms, they are a Turkish gun manufacturer, had taken a review video that I had posted and shared it to their page. So, and then they sent out an email, so possibly looking to do some sponsorship stuff with them. So real excited for that. Definitely going in the right direction, as I would like to say. So having them back us would be a huge thing. And I think the biggest thing is I want to thank everybody that does hop on and watch. We got Jackson to the screen here, as you can see.
What's up, guys?
What's up? So I was just explaining the news about how BH Best Arms had taken one of our product review videos and shared it on their page, which means we're getting recognized by companies as a legit entity in the gun tuber community. So I'm definitely excited for that. And ultimately, it comes down to you guys, the viewers that are constantly coming on and watching, helping our analytics go. If you can, comment as much as you can during the show. That helps with the analytics as well. Like the video as well if you can on whatever platform that you're streaming from. It helps us tremendously. And you can also help us through Patreon by making donations there on either Sincity Tactical MN, or you can do it through Sincity Tactical and become a Patreon there. That helps us grow the channel. So thank you guys for all of that support. Let's move right into the first topic here. We've got Pro 2A news, and that is a topic that I will be doing. So I want to talk about Joe Biden and what he's doing with his administration and how they're going about gun control, because he is trying to take steps now. So I'm going to play a little video and read at the same time. In his first 3 weeks as president, Joe Biden kept mostly mum about gun control. Sure, he tabbed anti-gun Judge Merrick Garland as his attorney general, a backhand blow to America's gun owners. And emboldened by his presence in the White House, Democrats in Congress introduced an anti-gun measure so all-encompassing that it would basically outlaw nearly everything about gun ownership that most gun owners hold dear. However, on Sunday, February 14th, the silence ended. That's when Biden released a statement officially launching his administration's full-scale assault on to keep and bear arms as protected by the Second Amendment. Using the mass murder at Parkland, Florida, 3 years ago to the day as the occasion, Biden said in a statement, "This administration will not wait for the next mass shooting to heed that call. We will take action to end our epidemic of gun violence and make our schools and communities safer. Today, I am calling on Congress to enact common sense gun law reforms, including requiring background checks on all gun sales, banning assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, and eliminating immunity for gun manufacturers who knowingly put weapons of war on the streets. We owe it to all of those who we've lost and to all of those left behind to grieve to make a change. The time is now to act." Okay, so it's a crock of crap, in my opinion, because we've stated this multiple times on this show. Doing gun control like they're trying to do it, you're only taking guns away from people who are law-abiding citizens. The criminals don't care. That's why they're criminals. They're already breaking the law by owning guns that they shouldn't have and committing crimes that they shouldn't be doing. So it doesn't matter if you reform gun control for the average American citizen. You're harming us, not the criminals. You want to reform gun violence? Take police squadrons and go find them. Go where the gangs are and get the gangs. Get the majority of the gun violent cases, because obviously you can't predict an individual committing a mass murder. If we could, this would not even be a conversation. But we do know statistically where the mass shootings and stuff are happening when it comes to normal gun violence cases. And you can't really say normal, but it's coming from gangs. I don't care if it's white gangs, black gangs, Asian gangs, Mexican gangs. Those are the ones committing the most gun violences. Gangs of any race, it doesn't matter. Get your gang, the government, the military, the police, and go get them. Take their guns from them, not from us. You want the community and the country to back you as a whole? You go into our communities and take the bad ones away. I will stand by your side and help you do that as an American citizen. I would be willing to do that to get people off of our streets that shouldn't have guns. I'm all for it. And you'd get backed by a bunch of people. But to threaten my right to bear arms when I haven't done anything wrong, gun related, it's ridiculous to me. You guys, thoughts?
Yeah. You want to go first, Griff, or do you want me to?
Go ahead.
All right, perfect. So, for starters, I just want to start out by saying it's unconstitutional. Basically, really, for any gun law to be put in place. And we can look back at history, and there's court cases to solidify the fact that any gun laws put in place are pretty much null and void as of the what was it, Marbury case or Marbury and God, I'm trying to think of the exact name of the case, but back in the day there was a case that tied into gun laws that kind of null and voided any government infringement upon our Second Amendment right. And, with that being said, the whole fact that things are getting to where it's getting to, I sorry to say it, but it's a little ridiculous with what the government and the ATF has been trying to put in place, especially under the Biden administration. I can only see it playing out in our favor as pro-Second Amendment people if we all band together and not necessarily a call to action to take action, but more so just stand up for your rights as Americans. Don't do anything stupid, but definitely go out there, voice your opinion. Obviously, we talked about it during the election season. When it comes down to it, if you want things to be a certain way, you got to get out there and vote, which, we have that option again here in 4 years unless something drastic happens. But overall, I think it's unconstitutional and way over the top.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And before I get going on my roll, RX David saying, I made it, guys. Thank you for coming back. It's always great to have you. And I want to say what I've always said and what I truly believe. This isn't about gun control. It's just purely about control. I mean, you can look through various histories of other countries and show that the first... one moment, please. We can look back in various other histories, show that the first step to control over the citizens is disarming the citizens. Look at Nazi Germany, look at Russia, look at Cuba, look at Venezuela. They marched to the same beat. And pardon me, this whole rhetoric of doing this on the anniversary of the massacre is just deplorable. You're stepping on the corpses of our children to forward your political gains. That is deplorable, it is despicable, it is the most disgusting thing you could possibly do. And the thing that we always need to keep in mind is this isn't just at a presidential level either. We need to get out and vote for the proper people that will support the Second Amendment and hold up our values on not only a state level, but even a district level. Because no matter what, the government isn't just at the federal level, it's everywhere. And Jax wanted to quickly chime back in saying that it was the Marbury versus Madison case. Thank you, Jax.
Not a problem.
That's all I have.
Absolutely. So, exactly. I mean, that's 100% right. For me, yes, the presidency votes is important, regardless of how I feel how the voting went. I'm just not going to speak on that at this time. But I will say, at least for our own states and our own politicians and our own communities, we need to vote correctly for our own communities. So, for example, California, real close to Nevada. There's a lot of people that have been moving to Nevada recently, specifically Las Vegas, to get away from California's state tax and high prices and high gas prices and things like that, that are now coming here and voting the same way that they voted in California, causing it to turn into what it turned into. And it's sad because you're going to now turn my community into something that I never wanted. I did not ask for, a bunch of Democratic votes to come to Nevada. Now, I know that sounds very biased. Clearly, I'm a Republican personally. And, and I'm not saying anything is wrong with being a Democrat. I have family members who disagree with my political views and vote democratically. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what I do have a problem with is when somebody tries to attack my rights that I want to use. They're there for me to use them, and I disagree in the fact that people are trying to take that away from me. What is happening is they're trying to use the First Amendment to destroy the Second, which the Second was created to protect the First. That's it. So it's sad that it's going that way, but that's enough on that topic. Unless the commenters want to chime in, then we can do that. But as of right now, I would like to move on to the next topic here. And personally, I would like to talk about the tactical gear reviews and how we're going to be doing them. So because we have gotten a lot of more exposure from you guys at home helping out, our analytics have gone up, which please keep continuing to do that. I know I said that at the very beginning, but we're upgrading. As you can see clearly, we've got better connection issues, less technical issues happening, and things are going a lot smoother. And what we're doing now is doing tactical gear review with a video and then physically holding an object and talking about it with you guys. So if Griff, if you're ready, I would like to start with you.
All right.
Go ahead and talk about your stuff a little bit while I find our clip for this real quick.
All right. So not to spoil it before the video, the tactical gear item I have is something that I believe all of us should have in some form or the other that is imperative to our survival.
Absolutely. And I'm going to roll the clip now.
All right. All right. So for the tactical gear review item that I've chosen this week, it is just a simple blood type patch. We're only talking an inch by half inch of nylon or PVC. Doesn't even have to be a patch. It can be some form of identifier of your blood type. Most of them can be had for less than $15. When it comes down to it, we need our blood to survive. It's just the way things work. But if we receive the wrong type or give the wrong type, that's when bad things happen, and I can never remember. That's when bad things happen, and I can't speak as to what happens because I'm not a medical professional, but I just know it's bad. And I'm going to bring up 2 personal examples here to demonstrate how that works. As you can see from my patch, I was blood type A positive. Now Wes, he's blood type O negative. He can only receive O negative blood, but he can give it to anyone else. Jax, on the other hand, is blood type O positive. He can only receive blood from other O types and can only give blood to other positive types. So A positive, B positive, and so on. Knowing that information is literally the difference between life or death in some scenarios. And really, for the price of a single patch, we should all be having them.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good point that you brought up. Like you said, with me being O negative, my blood is the most commonly used blood when it comes to transfusions and will be the first type of blood to run out because I can give it to every single blood type, regardless if it's positive or negative. But as you stated, I can only receive O negative blood back. So for me, that's kind of scary to think about, especially in like a wartime scenario. I'm in a situation where I'm going to have some issues with that. And I've had a cancer scare recently. And, that's one of those things, too, where with the cancer scare being directly related to my blood cells, my white blood cells to be exact. And that's pretty terrifying to think about. But we've obviously come a long way when it comes to medical stuff, especially in our country. So, it's just something like you said that's very good to know. And for me to be able to identify that on somebody else would be good. Now, in my situation, I could take my blood and just give it to anybody, and they should be fine. But it's not that way for everybody. Jax?
Yeah. I will agree with that. Pardon the beeping. Obviously, CPU's overheating on my end, but we're going to keep running. My dog tags obviously have my blood type on it, but the one thing I will say is I don't wear my dog tags every day on a daily basis anymore since I've been out. So when myself and Griff went to CC's, we automatically, first thing we said was, hey, we might as well get blood type patches for both of us to throw on our plate carriers in case for whatever reason things hit the fan, trying to, go out and do tactical maneuvers. And let's say, for instance, I get shot and Griff is 2 miles away and can't get to me right away. Well, somebody who's on the scene of it happening can look at that patch and go, oh, hey, this person's O positive, and if they have the correct blood type of, per se, Wes being O negative, they can donate or give blood to me. However, there's ups and downs to it all. So Griff and I have our own sets, but then Wes can only receive O negative. So he's at more of a backed up corner rate of finding somebody that's able to donate blood to him in that kind of a case. So I do think if, you guys are out there watching and prepping, that would be something that I would definitely recommend too, to put on your plate carrier or on your everyday carry bag if you've got Velcro and a MOLLE system.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to move into Jack's tactical gear item, and I'm going to roll the clip.
So, as you've seen from the video, I have the AR 500 level 3 body armor plates. The one in the picture is your rear plate. However, I've got the front plate right here. Now, the one thing I will say for these plates, shelf life is about 20 years. Date of manufacturing on my plates actually was 4/21 of 2020, so I've still got until 2040s. Yeah, 2040 with these bad boys. Now, these things will stop anything from 5.56 all the way up to 7.62, which is your AR-15 and your AK-47 rounds. Now, getting into why you would want to invest into something like this, we were kind of briefly talking about plate carrier with what Griff's item was with the patch. Getting yourself a decent set of body armor on a cheaper end for the front and rear plate, it's about $300. So I'd say mid-range, but still reasonable enough to protect yourself. We talk about it every week. Setting yourself up for success and being as protected as possible is kind of the most important thing here. Not going to obviously speak from a standpoint of definitely go out and get it. If you don't have money for it, obviously you don't. But if you have spare chunk change laying around and can do so, invest in something that's going to benefit you in the long run is basically what I'm trying to get at here.
So we're talking about plates and different price ranges and things like that. Griff runs ceramic plates. They're going to be super high end. That's your expensive plates. You're running the AR 500 steel plates. Now, you mentioned if you don't have the money for AR 15 or AR 500 steel plates, that you should try to save up and invest in some plates. Well, there is an option out there. You can get soft body armor. Soft body armor also goes up to level 3A and will stop basically the exact same stuff that plates that Jax is running. Okay. Significantly cheaper. It's going to hurt real bad because that bullet is going to impact and you're going to feel it, but it's not going to go through. I would rather break a couple ribs and deal with a punctured lung and get myself to a medical situation to where I can be taken care of than to take a bullet completely. So you can get soft plates. You can get them for roughly about $50. And we spoke about this actually on a previous episode. And Wendy from Sight Shooter, which we'll talk about a little bit later, had asked if they made specific plate carriers for women. Obviously, they have different biological makeups than we do. And, that raises some challenges when it comes to plates. And unfortunately, I could not find anything reliable in the women's variety of body armor. What most of the things that I saw was if you're going to run a plate carrier and you are a woman and you're bigger chested than most, is to use an ace bandage and a sports bra to kind of flatten yourself out to be able to run the plate carrier as close and tight to the body as possible. Obviously, don't put it so tight that you can't breathe or that you're cutting off circulation, because that won't be good. But to minimize your profile as much as possible to make sure that plate carrier is going to be as effective as possible. So in my recommendation, not an expert, but from my recommendation standpoint, for women, I would look into either custom molded ceramic plates, which you can get, or the soft body armor itself, because the soft body armor will flex and form to whatever shape you need it to, which will make it more comfortable when wearing. Me personally, I have some soft plates, for me and Jonna. We have a couple vests in the house, and that's a good solution for family care. Jack's brought up prepping and being prepared. Now, obviously, we're not talking super crazy prepper, buy 9,000 pounds of food. We're not talking about that. But to maneuver, obviously, first off, bugging in is a lot better than bugging out. You only bug out if you have no other choice but to leave what you have behind. And in that case, having multiple vests with plates can be the difference between a family member making it or not, depending on the situation. So, like I said, personally, we've got 3 vests in the house. There's 3 people in my house. And from Botach, so BOTACH.com. We're not affiliated with them. We're not sponsored by them. Would like to be. So if you're out listening, send us an email, sct@sincitytactical.xyz. That is our email. We can link up there. But they sell a vest and plate, front and rear plate combination set for less than $100. After taxes and shipping, you're probably at about $110, $115. But you can get a plate carrier. It's not going to have a bunch of molly on it, and you're not going to be able to run AR plates or pouches and things like that on it. But it will be a vest that holds body armor that you can throw on to a family member who's probably not going to be in the fight if there is one. Okay. I know, at least in my household, Jonna would try, but I wouldn't let her. I would make her fall back, and I would be the one to fight. So I need to have something that I can run a bunch of different things on. But for her and her mother, I would keep them back and make sure that they're plated so they have protection as well. Griff, you have any comments on that?
Yes, and actually, you're talking about with Wendy brings up a thought I have. I know that Shellback Tactical, who I run their plates and a couple of their other accessories, they offer like a plus size model for bigger folks. Wonder if something like that would be a good option for a more endowed woman.
Gotcha. That's smart.
Right. But Shellback Tactical, I'm running their ceramic plates, and they could be had for less than $400 a set. You know, very affordable and really darn fast shipping. But I've always looked at plates as a one-time purchase of a life insurance policy. Except this policy you can actually wear.
Yep.
So I always advocate that people get the plates that they can afford in the best quality they can afford. Because what it comes down to, they'll save your life.
100%.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And, you know, kind of speaking on what both of you guys said, you know, obviously you want to get something that's going to save your life in that moment when you really need it. But per Wes's situation, obviously, you know, us being the guys that are mainly going to be on the front line if things did hit the fan, you want to protect your family. And having even just that slight soft plate, like what Wes was talking about, for people that aren't, you know, running and gunning or taking position and being in the heat of the battle, it's better than just having them standing around bare. So, you know, like we've been talking about, definitely go out there, kind of weigh out your options, see what fits in your price range, and get what best fits you, but is going to be reasonable as well as useful. So this way, in the long haul, if it does come down to it and you have to throw it on, you know you're protected.
Absolutely. All right. So I'm going to move into my tactical gear item. And same thing, we're going to run a short clip and then we'll talk about it. All right. So as you saw there, this is the Real Avid AR-15 micro tool. Extremely handy tool. It's got a bottle opener on it here, a D-ring. It's got a bolt scraper to get carbon off, little hex head wrenches on there. It's got a little ruler. Here on the end, you can see there's a flat head, and when you depress it, you can spin it. Now you have a like paracord type of cutter or cordage type of cutter. Flip it again. Now you have a tactical pin punch, so you can push out your takedown pins or trigger pins if you have to do some repairs or anything like that. And then on this side, you have front post sight adjustment tool, so like your A2 front posts, or I think it potentially even works on the Magpul flip up. No, it wouldn't work on that. A2 front post adjustment tool on there as well. I like to keep it in the flat head position because it will not stab me if I decide to carry it. Got a little D-clip on here as well, as you can see. And ultimately, very good tool to have. Little ruler, like I said, on it, and different little wrench heads and things like that. And for about $15, this is something you can throw in a bag when you go to the range, and you can do a lot of different things with this item. So I would definitely check that out. Let's go ahead and bring everybody else back in. So that's my tactical gear item for the week. One of my favorite tools to keep in the tool bag. You never know when you need to have something on you, and if you're not trying to carry your whole arsenal of gunsmithing tools, this might just get you out of a pinch if you need to.
Indeed. And I guess I do have one question about it. Where would you find something like that if you weren't within reasonable driving range of a gun shop?
So I would personally go to realavid.com, REALAVID. So Romeo, Echo, Alpha, Lima, Alpha, Victor, India, Delta .com. And like I said, they're about $15. They have different tools too. So I also have the Glock tool as well. It's got a punch set that's built into it, and it's like a pen. It's about this long. On the top, it's got the front sight screw removal tool that's magnetic. It also helps you take off the rear sights. It's a punch as well. Very nice, handy tool. That's about $12, something like that. 1911 tools. They make pin punch like vice blocks and things like that as well. So very handy stuff to have.
Indeed, indeed.
I also own a couple of Real Avid products myself, and honestly, to me, they're the best gunsmithing tools I've used next to Wheeler, but they're not at Wheeler price, thankfully.
Right. Only thing I would say, tool-wise, that Real Avid doesn't, well, maybe they do. I don't know. I would have to look it up. When it comes to an armorer's wrench, there's a bunch of brands that make them. Me personally, the only armorer's wrench that I'm going with is an Aero Precision one. It's stupid expensive, but I would rather have something that's going to be high quality and good working condition at all times. Perfect example, I had a buddy over named Brandon Rote. We were building one of his ARs in my dining room, and I was using my cheap armorer's wrench, and one of the teeth snapped off of it. So that obviously didn't make me too happy. But yeah, getting yourself good, small, reliable tools that you can take with you is also something that can save you in a pinch to get your firearm back up and running. But all right, let's move into the next section here. And that is going to be Red Button News.
Indeed, guys. And so usually I like to keep things as lighthearted as possible, but this is something I definitely felt we needed to put out there and discuss. So we're going to go ahead and play the short red button intro and roll into the video footage as I read the topic to you. So, a radical vision of gun rights and the Second Amendment unites broad swaths of the Trump coalition. This includes the mob that stormed the Capitol on January 6th of this year and those who have called for armed demonstrations in all 50 state capitals, and a million militia march around the inauguration of President-elect at that time, Joe Biden, who is now the president. Small groups of protesters toted their guns to capitals and state houses in Texas, Ohio, Michigan, and Oregon on Sunday. And a larger number is expected Monday in Virginia, where an estimated 20,000 people turned up for a gun rights rally last year at the Richmond Capitol. On the 2020 campaign trail, President Trump steadily ratcheted up his rhetoric on the Second Amendment, saying that Democrats want to confiscate your guns and that Biden was against God and he's against guns.
While weapons were expressly prohibited at the rally on the Ellipse, where President Trump called on the crowd to march on the Capitol, law enforcement officers nevertheless recovered several guns at the scene of the tumult, as well as improvised explosive devices. Some people clearly came armed. Others left their weapons at home and instead telegraphed their Second Amendment loyalties by brandishing flags with favorite pro-gun slogans. One rioter carried a large banner with an image of Donald Trump as a Rambo-like figure, boasting not only an impressive physique, but guns drawn and ready to fight real and imagined enemies. In this case, the members of Congress and a vice president who were rubber stamping the stolen election. Trump slunk off, leaving his followers to fend for themselves as he watched the events unfold on television.
The January 6th insurrection aside, guns are allowed at protests in most states. The founders enshrined a single Second Amendment right in the text of the Constitution. But modern gun right advocates, conflating history and mythology, have invented a cluster of rights around it. They have successfully pushed the notion that the right to bear arms and the right to peacefully assemble added together equal some sort of supersized right to arm assembly. For them, the idea that exercising their Second Amendment rights could infringe on any other cherished liberties is unthinkable. How could exercising two constitutional rights together possibly make a constitutional wrong? And this is the question I kind of pose with this, is with everything being out there in the open, the January 6th thing, obviously we all know Trump was acquitted of all impeachment charges. However, with that being said, we all know the First Amendment rights protected by the Second. So using two constitutional rights in that sense, in not only political eyes but news eyes, can sometimes be wrong depending on how it's posed. But in my standpoint, the way I view it is, if all of our constitutional rights are band together to begin with for all of us to live freely here in America, what is the issue of pairing two of them together? I mean, let's look at it like this. We talk about your First Amendment right to freedom of speech. You have that. You can go out there and say whatever you want to whoever you want, and that is your right to do so. However, if that is disagreed with and rebutted with force, You do have your Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms as an option to back that up. Now I'm going to go ahead and let Griff rebuttal here first with his thoughts as far as two constitutional rights making the vice versa, rights making wrongs, and give his thoughts and opinions.
Yes, this notion that when we perform 2, 3, or 4 constitutional rights at the same time is not allowed it's lunacy. We do it all the time in the court system. By their notion, does that mean that I can have my right to a speedy trial or my right to an impartial jury of my peers? Last time I checked, both are needed for a proper trial. Those are two different rights. Why is it that suddenly when the Second Amendment and the First Amendment come into this, they don't mix? And I do want to quickly touch on how they're claiming what happened January 6th was an insurrection. The only people that used that type of language to describe peaceful assembly are the people that don't want to see that peaceful assembly.
Absolutely. Me personally, I think Griff was very well spoken, and I do not have a rebuttal personally because I don't think I have anything that I could add that is different from what he just said, other than the fact that, like you said, when it comes to courthouses and things like that, you cannot make a bunch of rights for me to have and not let me use them all at one time if I want to. It's not how it works. So, well spoken, Griff, and I don't have anything else to add to that.
And to close this out before we move on to the next topic, the one thing I will say is I agree with what Griff was saying. You know, for instance, with the gun right thing, that's kind of like saying, okay, drunk drivers, we might as well go ahead and force legal sober drivers to stay off the road while drunk drivers are on the road, because that's how the Second Amendment right works when it comes down to the gang members and that getting their guns through the black market and committing crimes illegally.
Absolutely. It is that time, boys. It is that time.
Indeed. I just want to go ahead and do a quick check here to see who all we got here watching. So feel free to comment. I know for sure it's Wes and Griff, but RX David I know is on. Is G3 in this session?
And while we're waiting, I'll put on my smarty pants glasses. Or smart guy glasses.
Whatever you got to do to make yourself get a trophy again.
Exactly. Wouldn't be much of a competition if you didn't have any competition.
I agree.
True that.
I agree.
There you go.
So while we're taking this time to do the intermission, let's do the shout outs and sponsors. First, I would like to thank Tac Pack. They send out a monthly subscription service box where you get tactical gear items. Next Saturday, you will see the box for February, as I will reveal it during the live stream show. You can use our code SC Tactical to get a free mystery grab bag, which will get you extra items from previous packs. And Griff should be able to attest to this, that the boxes have been getting better and better in the past few months. So that's very good to see. Glad to have them on board. Secondly, I would like to thank Wendy from Sight Shooter. She is a sponsor through Patreon, financially helps us provide this show to you guys as well. So big shout out to her, personal firearms instructor out here in Vegas, and that is sightshooter.com. Griff?
Yes, and I do want to add on to Tac Pack. I just received mine It was here yesterday or the day before, and it blew me away again. I'm surprised that we're getting what we're getting for how little we pay.
And I have not gotten mine yet, so I'm quite upset.
You're going to love it. Anyways, as usual, I just want to shout out G3 at g3survival.com. I'll keep on saying this no matter how much it annoys him. In my honest opinion, he makes the finest firearm leather goods on the market. Whether you're looking for pistol grip wraps for your ARs and your AKs, pistol grip wraps for your actual pistols, magazine wraps. He recently released a new finger loop product that can be attached to your M-LOK rails. He even offers shotgun pump straps and slings in various many designs that we're constantly working together on to come out with new designs. And as many of you guys know this already, I personally designed the tooling he uses to make these products in the state of Minnesota by hand, made to order for each and every single one.
Indeed. Got anything else, Griff?
Nope, go ahead. Take her away.
All right, fair enough. So I'm going to go ahead and shout out G3 Survival as well. Obviously, as you can see, Wes has the G3 tab up on our website. You can go to sincitytactical.xyz or sincitytacticalmn.xyz, go down to the G3 tab, and pull up the products for him that we currently have up on the website, as well as going to g3survival.com. And to top all that off, whether you buy it through us or the actual website, you're helping a very, very close brother of ours out, and we appreciate it just as much as he does. Griff does a lot of the tooling, if not all the tooling. I know certain things before we get into this, G3 had already kind of done some work on, so I'm sure that's up there, as well as the stuff that Griff works on and does all the tooling for. The peace of mind knowing that it's made here in the USA is a big plus, so definitely check that out. Secondly, I want to go ahead and shout out Wendy from Sight Shooter again. She is a Patreon supporter financially of the entire podcast, which is awesome and greatly appreciated. I cannot wait to have her back on the show again for you guys to ask her some questions yourself as viewers of the show. Again, I want to go ahead and shout out TacX Pro Gear. As you can see, the American flag cleaning mat behind me. You can use the code Overlander25 at nationalconcealedcarryassociation.com to get 15% off your purchases there, as well as 25% off your purchases at tacxprogear.com. And then, being as I'm still very, very close friends with these guys, I want to go ahead and shout out B&E Music once again for a local label here in Minnesota. Very interesting artists that span across different genres. It doesn't all funnel into one. So you definitely have a variety there, as well as the overall fact of supporting a smaller local label / business, kind of like what you guys are doing here watching this show. It's always greatly appreciated. And I do want to go ahead and just shout out our website one last time here before we move into CLS. Go ahead and check out sincitytactical.xyz or minnesotaoverlander.xyz. Or not Minnesota Overlander, my fault here. Trying to multitask at once, and it's not working well. But we're going to go ahead here and put in our new website as sincitytacticalmn.xyz. I know I said that before. So we're going to go ahead and move on in. to CLS training and have you guys interact with us. This week we are on lesson 4. And I'm going to start out by giving Wes the first question this week, seeing as he's in the lead.
Let's do it.
So before I get into that, I'm going to read you 4-2, which is where your question comes from. The title of 4-2 is Expose the Wound. If possible, expose the wound first by pushing or cutting away loose clothing around the casualty's wound. This will enable you to better view the extent of the injury. Scissors, strap cutter, or a knife can be used to cut clothing. In the care under fire phase, do not take time to expose the wound. You have question number 2. Why should you push away any loose clothing near a casualty's open wound before applying a dressing? Alpha, to allow the wound to get air. Bravo, to provide a sterile work area. Charlie, to see the extent of the wound. Or Delta, to apply ointment to the wound.
Charlie, to expose the extent of the wound, see how bad it is. If not, possibly find other wounds, if not shrapnel or something else, depending on the situation. My final answer, Charlie.
Charlie is your final answer?
Yes, sir.
All right. And you would be correct. It is Charlie, to see the extent of the wound. All right. Next question here is for RX David. Question number 3. But before we get into question number 3, let's see, 4-2, caution. So same paragraph that I read to Wes, but I'm going to go ahead and read it again. This way, RX David has it fresh in his memory. And matter of fact, I said, what was it? 4-2 caution. All right. So the caution for 4-2 is clothing or anything else stuck to the wound should be left alone to avoid further injury. Cut or tear around the stuck material so that the stuck material remains undisturbed. Do not, and I repeat, do not attempt to clean the wound. All right, so this is where we get into the question. Question number 3. A casualty is bleeding from a leg wound. Part of the trouser material next to the wound is stuck to the wound. You should, Alpha, cut around the stuck material so as not to pull the material from the wound. Or Bravo, gently pull the material away from the wound area.
Question and answers a second time.
Question number 3, again, is a casualty is bleeding from a leg wound. Part of the trouser material next to the wound is stuck to the wound. You should Alpha, cut around the stuck material so as not to pull the material from around the wound. Or Bravo, gently pull the material away from the wound. And it looks like RX David said Alpha. All right. RX David, you would be correct. You do not want to move the material away from the wound. You just want to cut around it and make sure that whatever is stuck to it stays there. Obviously, before you remove the casualty to get better care. All right, so 4-7 is for Griff. Well, question number 5 is for Griff, but I got to read you 4-7. Or 9, 4-8, 4-7. Pressure dressing. If blood continues to seep from the dressing after you have applied manual pressure, apply a pressure dressing. If an emergency bandage has been applied, tighten the bandage to form a pressure dressing. Otherwise, apply an improvised pressure dressing. The following instruction assumes that an improvised pressure dressing is being applied after the lower limbs have been elevated to help prevent shock. Note, the emergency bandage can be used as both a field dressing and as a pressure dressing. So question number 5 is, you have applied a pressure dressing to a wound on a casualty's arm. Under what circumstance would you loosen the crivet? Alpha, the bleeding has stopped. Bravo, the casualty has lost consciousness. Charlie, the casualty complains of thirst. Or Delta, there is no pulse in the limb below, distal to the bandage.
Can you give me the answers one more time?
Answers for question number 5 are Alpha, the bleeding has stopped. Bravo, the casualty has lost consciousness. Charlie, the casualty complains of thirst. Or Delta, there is no pulse in the limb below, distal to, which is limb below, the bandage.
That's a hard one. Ding! Griff just disappeared on us.
Oh boy. All
Here we
right.
come.
Well, in the meantime, while we wait for Griff to jump back in here, I want to go ahead and just double check. G3, are you watching?
Griff is back. He's ready for his answer.
Perfect. Griff, what is your answer?
Yeah, that was awfully weird. I want to say it's Delta.
That's your final answer?
Yes.
All right. Correct answer is Delta.
Woohoo.
There you go.
There is no pulse in the limb distal or limb below distal to the bandage.
Say, guys, I will be right back. I just need to quickly refresh to fix my connection.
No worries. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of do a little bit of gauging here. Obviously, we're doing this through the end of season 2 and throughout season 3, throughout the question book. We're going to go ahead and do this challenge. We have a little bit of a wager between Wes and Griff going on. So if any of you guys that are watching want to join in, feel free to interact with us and throw yourself into the competition. I can add you to the list. Obviously, there are a couple people, unfortunately, I'm going to have to remove. However, at the end of the day, I'm more than willing to add you guys into the competition if you guys are here watching and want to interact and join in with us.
And to speak on that for a quick second, first place, not wagered into me and Griff's personal bet, but overall competition-wise, if you receive overall first place, you're going to get all of the items that we spoke about in the last show. There will also be a second place and third place prizes for anybody who jumps on midweek or mid-month or something like that. And it would be hard to catch up to be able to allow new people to still join in and still have a shot at winning a prize. So there's a win or loss between me and Griff directly, but then there will also be for anybody who jumps on. So currently, as it stands, RX David 86 is directly competing with me, Griff, and himself in there as well. So he's in the big running. There will also be room for others to be able to join in and win prizes as well. Let's go. I'm ready.
All right. So before we get into your next question, like Wes was talking about, there is a running to win certain prizes. Now on Wes's end, he's putting up a piece of merchandise, as well as on the Minnesota division side of things. I'm going to either throw up a throwback kind of shirt, like the Minnesota Overlander shirt I'm wearing tonight, or what we have up on the website, or we do have the Parabellum and Molan Labe shirt that has been recently added to the website. So feel free to enter yourselves there for a chance to win some of the Sincity tactical merch. Now, with that being said, your next question, Wes. We're going to go ahead and give you question number 4. And that comes from section 4.4. So, I'm going to have to read you 4.4 here first. 4.4, emergency bandage. The emergency bandage can be used on any bleeding wound. It can be used both as a field dressing and as a pressure dressing. Follow the procedures below when applying the emergency bandage to a wound on the casualty's extremity. We'll jump forward here. Figure 4.2, obviously, I don't know if you're able to look it up with the link that I sent you, but shows the emergency bandage applied to the forearm. Figure 4.3 shows emergency bandages applied to various other wounds. Now, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move into question 4 here for you. Question 4 says, what part of the emergency bandage should be applied directly over an open wound? Alpha, the bandage attached to the dressing. Bravo, the dressing pad. Or Charlie, either of the above is acceptable.
Ooh.
And yeah, that's your options.
So, obviously, because I don't have the picture in front of me, the bandage, did that have a dressing pad built onto it already?
So
no?
That would be the piece of equipment that broke on me a little while back.
Oh. Well, my answer is going to be, once again, Charlie. And the reason why I say Charlie is because if I'm in a medical situation and my med bag is not prepped out properly, first, obviously, I would put a dressing pad. So the answer would technically be B. But under these circumstances, I would say if I had to go direct bandage to stop a bleed, I'm going to stop a bleed. So Charlie is my answer. I think I might be wrong, but I'm sticking with Charlie. Final answer.
Final answer. Unfortunately, you should have went with your second one as Bravo.
Yep.
We're going to move on. I'll touch base with you a little later because I know And this is for kind of anybody. If you want to reach out, you can reach me email-wise at jacksmn@sincitytactical.xyz. I can definitely get you the link to the handbook as well as answer CLS questions. Myself and Griff, we've been talking. I am going to plan it out here as soon as myself and him have time to do some one-on-one CLS training. And if this COVID stuff ever ends and Wes comes into town, if you want to do some CLS training with me, I'm more than willing to do so. Yes, Wes, it kind of was. And I should have realized that when I read the section for you. However, if you need me to resend that to you, I can send it the PDF file out via our work.
I like going right off of common sense off of my brain. I don't want to read up before the shows. I like RX David doesn't have access to it. I don't want access to it. We're shooting from the hip.
Yep. Now, honestly, I got the file, I lost the file, and just like you.
I got it. I never opened it because I wanted to shoot from the hip.
That's where I'll tell you what. You don't have to read the file, but when all three of us are physically together down the road, I am definitely doing a CLS class as well. Basics, obviously. But moving forward, next question here is going to be for RX David. So, we're going to jump a little bit here. You're going to question 12. And unfortunately, Wes, I can't do half points.
I know.
However, question 12, we got to go to paragraph 454. So, 4-5. Okay, combat gauze is a 3-inch by 4-yard roll of gauze, which also kind of implements this, that is impregnated with a hemostatic agent. This material is a procoagulant and will cause blood to clot when it comes into contact with the blood. And this action, along with the pressure of packing it into a bleeding wound and applying manual pressure, causes the wound to stop bleeding. Combat gauze is used for serious arterial bleeding. Instructions for applying the combat gauze are given below. Use the casualties combat gauze first. So, steps to this: A, open the clothing around the wound. B, if possible, remove any excessive pooled blood from the wound while preserving any clots already formed in the wound. C, locate the source of the most active bleeding. D, pack the combat gauze tightly in the wound and directly onto the source of the bleeding. E, more than one combat gauze may be required to stem the blood flow. F, combat gauze may be repacked or adjusted into the wound to ensure proper placement. G, quickly apply manual pressure until the bleeding stops. It is recommended that you apply continuous pressure for 3 minutes. H, reassess the proper and effective placement. I, apply the pressure bandage to the wound to secure the combat gauze in the wound. So, question number 12 asks, the combat gauze bandage is used for alpha, minor bleeding, bravo, serious arterial bleeding, or Charlie, a complete amputation of an upper arm or thigh in lieu of a tourniquet.
Read the answer choices again.
Alpha, a minor bleeding. Bravo, serious arterial bleeding. Charlie, a complete amputation of an upper arm or thigh in lieu of a tourniquet. All right,
Alpha.
David says Alpha. Unfortunately, brother, the answer to question number 12 is Bravo, serious arterial bleeding. And we are going to go ahead and move into Griff's next question, which is question number 13 to wrap up this week's CLS. You both got one extra 2 weeks ago because you guys tied and you wanted a tiebreaker.
No, you gave him a dumbass yes or no question.
Okay, then fine. If you truly want one more,
No, it's fine.
So let's get rolling with this. You have the rest of the show to go.
Well, I get that, bro. So 4-5, section G. Let's see here. 4-1, 4-5, section G. Obviously, same thing as combat gauze from RX David's question. I'll reiterate section G here for you. Quickly apply manual pressure until the bleeding stops. It is recommended that you apply continuous pressure for 3 minutes.
All right.
Okay. Question 13. After you apply the combat gauze bandage to a wound, you should immediately, Alpha, apply a pressure dressing over combat gauze. Bravo, apply a tourniquet over the combat gauze. Charlie, apply manual pressure to the combat gauze. Or Delta, apply a tourniquet below the combat gauze.
Charlie, final answer.
Charlie, final answer? And you, my friend, would be correct there, brother.
Woohoo.
All right. So that wraps up this week's CLS. And we're going to move into the next topic.
Absolutely.
Pardon me while I adjust. All right, for this week's EDC How and Why, we're moving away from the scenarios for now to talk about headphones, when to use them and when not to. And I know during the show's preparation, kind of had to explain it to my co-host here. And I honestly believe that headphones are becoming more and more prevalent in our society. There's more people, myself included, that always make sure to have them before I leave the door. The problem is, using headphones can and will reduce your awareness of the situation. In fact, I'm about to share with you a story of back in my adolescence where I was going with a buddy of mine to pay his phone bill at the local T-Mobile store. I was wearing my headphones on, oblivious to the world, as I opened the door into the middle of a active armed robbery. That's not a fun thing to walk into when you're only 17. But since then, I've learned I never use them when I'm driving, when I'm walking out in public, and even when I'm using them at work. I've since switched to open ear bone conducting headphones to where I still can hear my environment. I refuse to use noise canceling headphones or things like that that will reduce my awareness. Would you guys happen to have any inputs on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So me personally, I'm not one to carry headphones with me like ever. I do sometimes, but not my go-to. I don't grab them and go. Most of the time it's because of situational awareness. I personally would rather be able to hear everything. And if I'm driving, I've got music in the car. The only time I think that headphones are applicable for my situation is if I am sitting stationary for quite some time, and I know that I'm in a safe location, that I don't necessarily have to worry about my surroundings too much. But like you said, I don't even really go with noise canceling because I still want to stay situationally aware of my surroundings. Because like you said, I don't want to walk into something that I don't know what's going on, and I don't want something to walk up on me that I'm not ready for. So for me, I feel like there's a time and a place for headphones. The gym, that's a good place for headphones. If I'm sitting down at let's say a library or something, I'm in a back corner, I've got my eyes set to where I can see the rest of the room and at least see what's coming, then headphones can be applicable in that situation. But for me, I tend to stay away from headphones in general, just because I want to be as prepared as I possibly can be.
Indeed. And for me, I mean, granted, when I'm here at the house, most of the time I use headphones. Or if I'm out in the yard, mowing the lawn on my ride on, that's a little bit of a different story. But again, similar to Wes, I kind of like to be situationally aware of what's going on around me. So when I get up in the morning and leave the house, my first thing is definitely to make sure I have the bare essentials: my phone, my wallet, my keys, obviously the rest of my EDC items, and then I hit the road. So as far as being situationally aware goes, it's more about being able not only to see, but to hear what's going on around you, let alone behind or in front of you. And if you got headphones in, that's definitely a downside, taking away the audio side of being able to detect what's going on around you per your situation. So when it comes down to it, there is a time and a place for it. Me personally, I feel like your biggest opening to use them is more of kind of a by yourself on your own personal time kind of setting, not when you're out and about shopping, working, whatever the case may be. So just definitely being more situationally aware of your surroundings can save you a lot of stress and hectic in the long run.
Right. I mean, we've all seen it in our day-to-day lives where we're driving and walking around, and there's I call them phone zombies. And those are in the phone, got their headphones in, and they have no clue what the hell's going on around them. I refuse to be a person like that.
Same.
Me as well. Perfect. All right. Well, it is that time. We're going to wrap up the end of the show here. And as always, Griff always leads us out with our patriotic message. Take it away.
All right. Our patriotic message is from the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln. America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it'll be because we destroyed ourselves. A little applicable to what we talked about today, won't you say?
Indeed.
Absolutely. There's one last thing that I'm going to lead off with, and I just thought about this now. Falls into our patriotic message. Joe Biden is trying to remove Andrew Jackson from the $20 bill. Please write notes on your senators' pages, your state senators, write emails. It is wrong to remove a president off of a bill who was an acting president to then replace that said president with someone who was not a president. Benjamin Franklin obviously is an exclusion, but he's been on the $100 bill for a while. If you were to remove him, that's a different story. Historical figure, not a president. But to remove a president from a $20 bill and replace it with someone else is wrong. That's all I have to say to that, and I believe Griff has something else he wants to say to that as well.
Rather than shaking my head in absolute disgust, only thing I want to say is, who is he planning on replacing Andrew Jackson on the 20, if you know.
You had to ask me that. Okay, let me see.
All right,
And
what do you
while
have to
you're
say about
looking
this,
that up-
Jax?
Yep, I got something while he's looking that up. Couple things here, just kind of a real quick thing. Firstly, I kind of want to touch on a saying that another pro Second Amendment YouTuber says. Good old John from not John Lavelle. There we go.
Okay.
So we're gonna go with one of his sayings this week because I know Wes kind of ends it with his. So train hard, be smart, and we'll catch you next time. But the last thing I did want to say is if you decide you want to interact with us more offline, feel free to email us and we can kind of touch base with you, answer some more questions, whether it be Pro 2A related or personally. Wes, you want to feel free to give them the generalized email to reach all three of us?
SCT@sincitytactical.xyz is how you can email us directly. And I'm trying to get you that information here. So on the 26th of January, they are talking about removing Andrew Jackson from the $20 bill and replacing him with Harriet Tubman.
Gotcha. Well, before we extend the show, let's sign off and we can talk more about that after the show.
Absolutely.
Indeed.